I want to share with you something powerful that I read yesterday, and I didn't get a chance to share with you. I've been reading this book, and it talked about having a suntan, Sontan, and it talked about how in the scripture, when the Israelites couldn't get close to God because his glory and all would kill them, that Moses was selected to be there with God. And when Moses was in the presence of God after he spent time with God, how his face even glowed, the countenance of his face. But it talked about the Israelites because they wouldn't or thought to not get close to God, that they regressed back with disbelief and disobedience. And that's what happens when we get away from God and don't expose ourselves to him. Those things are going to start to multiply. It says this, and that's why it says in the book here that's why literally God killed himself literally to bring us to his presence, using Jesus as that. He says when we step into God's presence, we're exposing ourselves to power. And everything within us changes when we bask in the radiation of his glory. Now you think about if we are taking time every single day to expose ourselves to his glorious power. And then it says this, I love this, his glory does violence to cancerous iniquities in our lives. So thinking about whatever you've got going on in your life, and instead of turning from God or pulling away from God, if you push yourself into that radiant exposure of his glory and power, how that his glory does violence to the cancerous iniquities in your life. It says, expose yourself to God's radiation. If you do, you'll be amazed at the traction you'll gain over chronic sin issues that have plagued you. And then it says that, I love this part here, it is possible to build up an ability to handle heavier exposures to the glory of God, just like getting a suntan. The more you're out in the sun, the more tan you are, the longer you can withstand yourself. But it also talks about how sometimes you don't realize how burnt you are until that night when the sun goes down and you come in from being in the sun. And it says that the more time you spend in his presence, the greater your ability to steward and sustain even greater levels of glory. Would it be okay to say that you begin to develop a suntan, Sontan? I just wanted to share that with you this morning because we really need to make it an absolute practice, a part of our day, to expose ourselves to the Son of God, to God himself, to be able to bask in the ability to do that. So we need to expose ourselves to that power and glory and let his power and glory do the work that was intended to be done in us.